So we know a new patch is coming out. We've all talked about it. I have another video on it, which I'll link in the description below. But there's a few things in it that have stirred up some things that I've read on like posts and seen videos about from fellow YouTubers. And it's that time walking is just bullshit reused content. And yes, it's reused content. Is it technically bullshitted? Technically, yes, it is, because they're not doing anything to it. They're scaling you down to it so you can experience it the way that it was experienced. But of course it comes with the inherent flaw that you have spells that you would not have had at that level. You're not really experiencing it the way that it would have been experienced. The Mechanar is not going to be as hard as it ever was when it was current content in Burning Crusade. Just like Stonecore isn't going to be as difficult as it was during Cataclysm. So it comes with this inherent simplicity that's just going to happen. There's no avoiding it. But what I really want to discuss is why time walking is actually good. Now, I'll do the time walking event on one tune. I don't go crazy with it because I'm DPS and the queue times are kind of like whatever, you know. But what I think is beneficial about time walking is for new players. Now, yes, the content is not going to be experienced, like I said, how it was experienced when it was current content, but that's okay because the development team went through a lot of work to put these dungeons together. And since you can't really experience the zones 100% anymore because you level through them too quickly unless you go back and do it just for the story, this is the only way to really experience content that was relevant at that time. Now there's a lot of players, especially with them adding in the boosts, so the 90 boost in Warlords of Draenor, the 100 boost that you're getting in Legion, or at least we're assuming we're still getting, you're skipping all this content. The 100 boost is boosting you completely past the newest expansion, which is Warlords. So how do people experience this content any other way? They can't. They would have to go run it on their own and just solo it. It's not the same. So time walking brings you as close as you possibly can to experiencing it the way that it was, or the way that it should have been experienced. Now, that's beneficial for people who are new to the game. Naturally, veterans. I've been playing since launch day in vanilla WoW. I have seen every dungeon. I have done all the content that I possibly can when it is completely relevant. And even then, I still get inklings to go back and do some things. But I can't experience it the way I wanted to, because there's a nostalgia that's associated with this. And my nostalgia comes from the fact that I remember wiping in Stonecore millions of times. Millions is probably a really bad over-exaggeration, but wiping in Stonecore, doing just even a looking for group because people didn't understand crowd control. But that was nice because that brought me back to wiping or in vanilla WoW on trash pulls that you had to be on point with the CC, and if one person in the group screwed up, you were screwed. So there's a level of nostalgia that comes with it, but you're not going to experience it the same way if you were a veteran. Time walking is really there to benefit new players so that they don't feel like they missed out 100% on old content. And old content is still good content. Granted, in the timeline, it's done, it's past, the Stonecore events are gone, Lost City of the Tol'vir is gone, all the Lich King stuff is done. It's gone forever as far as the timeline's concerned. But you can still experience these things as a player and see what was going on and kind of immerse yourself in the lore a little bit. Is time walking a rehash of something that already exists? Of course it is. I think it's beneficial for the player base to be able to experience these things, especially if they never did. Because Wrath of the Lich King was when WoW hit its peak and a lot of people came in for Wrath of the Lich King. They never experienced Burning Crusade the way that it could have been experienced because it wasn't relevant content anymore. So you already have an amazing expansion that was lost, and now as we move on in the timeline and the life of WoW, new expansions just cancel out all the old ones, and those things are just lost to the past, and it becomes a simple achievement to go get. You know, achievement grinding and getting old raid achievements, it's not the same as getting it when it's relevant, but once it's gone, you're never going to get it again. So time walking gives you this ability to at least go back, and on top of that, they've at least begun adding things in game that are perks for going for it. So you have the 2 mounts that you can get, and now you're adding in the Time Reaver, or the Infinite Time Reaver. It's a cool looking mount. It's one of my favorite looking mounts I think that they've added in quite some time. So they're trying, which is nice, and it's also it's being added in as a placation. Like, it's designed to keep the masses happy and give them some semblance of content to do in this lull while we wait for Legion. If this becomes an extreme norm where we're waiting a long time and they just keep rehashing, people will definitely get pissed. And is time walking enough to keep veterans and the majority of the player base interested and subscribe to the game? I don't think so, because we've seen the subscription number drops, and I don't think that adding in this single mount is really going to do that. It has its perks, but its biggest perk is it's for players who never really experience these things. And though they'll never experience it the way that they should, they can at least get the lore and get the story, which is something that matters because the lore is part of this game. And if you don't like the lore in this game, you're missing out on a huge part of the actual game. Not that you can't play it as just an MMO where there's raiding and things along those lines, but the lore is what's really rich, and being able to experience those things in some way is really what makes it count. So, but that's all I have for this particular video. I just wanted to get a quick one out for you guys. Like, comment, and subscribe. Tell your friends about me. I have a soft, smooth, soothing voice. See you next time.